Okay, guys, lots of stuff to go through. I'm sorry we're jumping in. Hope good luck. Wish you the best along for this ride. If you're just jumping in here, good luck, especially. It is what it is. So we're gonna talk about all these posts. I didn't look at them, so there's also that going on. Some Zealandia formation stuff in terms of like re-look at them. I wrote them. I haven't re-looked at them. So we've been talking about the formation of the Pacific in terms of the Earth's expansion process as a result of the global flood, and particularly, maybe I should get Google Earth open in regard to like I should probably do this too. Where is it? Where is the image I'm thinking of? Maybe here? No. This one, we can kind of ignore most of the details and zoom in here. Maybe rotate even. So we had Papua New Guinea adjacent to Baja, Sulawesi, Maluku adjacent California, Philippines adjacent to Pacific Northwest, and some other stuff that is not like Asia was not like this at the time. It was much smaller. New accreted terrains between the cratons that broke apart pretty much from the process. But we're looking here, and so New Zealand was generally like over here. Like up here though, and got moved down in the process by current flows. So hopefully you already are acquainted with this stuff, because I'm just gonna in terms of literally my interpretation that I've been presenting in these videos, because we're just gonna go through stuff and let's see what we see. This was of note: Mesozoic, Paleozoic, Mesozoic, Cretaceous Trench in relationship to Hikurangi Plateau, the opening of the Tasman Sea, 85, as Hawaii moved back. The Tasman Sea opened. That's interesting. Definitely related. 120 million. What do we got going on here? Australia, Zealandia. Yep. And then over here, though, North America. Like Zealandia was like here in this area. Or thereabouts. It's just, this is in a plate tectonics framework where the Pacific region is still like widely open, where the continents are not close in a plate tectonics framework, but the Earth expanded, and plate tectonics does not account for that. Does not acknowledge that the Earth expanded. Okay, so here's some other things, some troughs. Let's see, I said 250 to 100 million for this trough sounds promising. Essentially thinking the time frame when the Hawaiian sphere is passing through the region, maybe it actually went through the trough area. I don't know if that's what I was thinking then. That's just a thought I have. Forming as the Earth broke apart. This region was forming as the Earth broke apart, which I believe 250 is when Australia rotated down to have Papua New Guinea region adjacent to Central America and basically be a backstop for current flows there. When beforehand it was up at basically the North Pole region between North America, or Laurentia, and Asian Gratons. And then it moved away when the Earth expanded a first time. That then, at the Permian boundary, it was basically moved into position where it couldn't move anymore, so it just started to block currents more. In the meantime, it was like not building up pressure because it was moving, I guess, something of that nature. Okay, let's keep going. We got so much to go through. So some ages. Okay, this is just some more info. Maybe we can come back to this entirely, because this is like I just did it in the order that I posted them. So we're really going back to the beginning of the post that I haven't talked about. So we got these troughs. There's and basin, like those regions we already kind of noticed. Some fault directions, which definitely relates to the current flows. We were saying current was flowing this way and this way. So we've got that way and that way. And I got links over there. Some more images, late Cretaceous. I'm just kind of looking at the things, but it's okay. Let's just move on. I also was reminded of this, like that the hotspot highway is here. In relationship to all the things I've talked about in recent episodes, particularly like the last ones, this came to mind, so I kind of posted it. Let's keep going. Reading this article, they discuss the topographic uplift and subsidence of Zealandia, relating it to initiation of subduction. But what I found worth mentioning in particular was this quote. One of the amazing things about our observations, says Sutherland, is that they reveal the early signs of the Ring of Fire were almost simultaneous throughout the Western Pacific. Because this timing predates the global tectonic plate reorganization, he says, scientists need to find an explanation for how subduction began across such a broad area in such a short time. He goes on to say, we don't know where or why, but something happened that locally induced movement, and when the fault started to slip, like in an earthquake, the motion rapidly spread sideways onto adjacent parts of the fault system, and then around the Western Pacific. The process has no modern analog. I found that interesting. Like, typically processes are tied to things that we see, but this is such a unique process that it's really not even able to be tied to something. In terms of plate tectonics and uniformitarianism, the assumption that things are not catastrophic and don't change like rapidly, when like that's just how it is rapid change with periods of stability, like chemicals, like atoms are, for example. Just how things are. That's just how things are. So is the Earth. So it has the moment of the Ring of Fire is really related to like a supernova in a fractal way that was like the Hawaiian sphere being like a newly born particle that was not stable, and it like pushed out boundaries with its energy by the whole process of it all, but really relating to like how that particle, like how like a supernova can happen in like a fractal way to a point where it just has no analog when we observe it. Like, what is up with this ring of fire? And notice it started before plate reorganization. So it's almost like the ring of fire was as these currents that are flowing everywhere that as the earth starts to expand, basically it pushes out pressure into the continents from every like body of water, so that large bodies like that would end up becoming the Pacific pushed in one direction on each continent, and then other bodies like that would end up being the Atlantic pushed in another direction. So then like the collective force of them all caused the overall expansion. But at some point they started to resist one another. Like there was a time when they could freely expand because the circumstances of the process actually like broke the bonds enough for it to freely expand. But then it started to kind of run into, well, there's nowhere for these currents to flow anymore. So then they upwelled as a ring of fire, but before the reorganization of the plate so that it could like expand again, because it essentially needed to build up pressure to then push things apart again, like kind of like a flow that moves like a caterpillar movement that kind of inches caterpillar movement, but a caterpillar expansion process. Okay, let's keep going. Sorry if this is a little me not really remembering. Maybe I should like bother to look at it, but it's just like I haven't even been thinking about this type of topic. So it's also that, and this is like technical papers, add in another variable of, whoa, dude, the Central Pacific megatrend. Another megatrend. So Smoot discussed the Chinook Trough megatrend, I believe. I believe. Yeah. That had dextral slip along it, I believe. West, north, northwest, east, southeast. Trending, yeah, okay. I was thinking maybe it was a west to east trending thing, but I think that's later. Is a transbasinal feature comprising several types of geomorphic features, ridges, linear seamount chains, and fractures. The route is traced from the Banda Sea in the Indonesian region to South America. Okay, so maybe this is one of the... Several proposed hotspot tracks are shown to be continuations on the same alignment. The megatrend bathymetry shows that it is overlain by the El Nino oceanographic phenomenon, which I have a video titled El Nino. To see some information on that. So just that it's tied to that is interesting. Any tectonic processes associated with the eastward flow of magma surges, such as excess heat, may influence the onset of that event by heat transfer from the lithosphere to the water body. Dudes, see my El Nino video. Oh my lord. Just like that is incredible. Let's see what else we got. I guess I just moved on from that paper apparently. Um, the formation of Zealandia being generally in the time frame of 105 to 85, I guess. Significantly less. There's Hikarangi Plateau all the way down here. Not accounting for the Ontong Java Nui hypothesis, which is a pretty strong argument. So, this is again like the issue with plate tectonics. Is it like kind of can't quite put the pieces together because the earth expanded? Okay, let's read this though. Probably worth taking a moment and looking at some geological information on Zealandia. Of immediate note is the time frame of Zealandia. So why this is maybe is worth going back into why this is relevant now that it's like occurring to me a little more clearly in my head is these current flows that we mapped here. So we're really looking at how this current that was going this way, initial path, as it bends to go this way, around the side of Manihiki Plateau, and interacting with this current going this way, and this current, as this other current wedges its way through and like pushes this over to form a new like pattern so that the current doesn't go this way, it goes this way and goes basically above Zealandia, while this other current kind of pushes to the point where some of it goes this way, while it also bends up this way to go across that way, even though I didn't draw it there. So that is kind of like part of what's going on here is this current that's flowing across Antarctica and then across eastern Australia is being shifted off and then at some point cutting, and then once it cuts starting to widen and move away this way, like maybe even like doing this, widening this, because it looks like it changed the shape of Antarctica in the way they depict it. Maybe I'm just to have this extra width. I don't know. Lower panel shows pre-breakup intracontinental extension of Zealandia and West Antarctica. Extension of West Antarctica and Zealandia breakup as the current progresses this way. Okay, now we're back on it. Sorry, it took a little bit for me to get back into it. I'm like, oh yeah. So then I was saying, of immediate note is the time frame of Zealandia beginning to form is simultaneous to when, well, simultaneous in that overlapping, I guess. Like I essentially looked at 105 as like things are just sort of getting going, but nothing's really happened for Zealandia, and 85 being it's like post expansion, or intracontinental extension. Anytime the plate tectonics says extension, expansion, I'm pretty sure it's a very legitimate one to one on like a broad spectrum of details. Maybe not every single instance, but I've been noticing it more. Like extension. Oh. Oh. And then Mortimer et al., although I think in the next post, or somewhere down here, I say it's one of these posts I misidentified the paper, but somewhere along the line I figured that out. But this paper, seemingly, it looks like it is that paper. Describe the geology of Zealandia quite curiously. First, they relate it to Ontong Java and differentiate it, where oceanic plateau, just not in like a geological sense, like, oh, this is like related to the formation of Ontong Java is related to the formation of Zealandia. That's not what they're doing. They're just saying oceanic large igneous provinces, such as the Ontong Java Plateau, are elevated but not continental, whereas Zealandia is a continental. So, where oceanic plateaus are composed of basalt and gabbro, continents are composed of igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary rocks, like Zealandia has been found to have. So, like that, it has that. Zealandia is considered continental rather than oceanic plateau, like Ontong Java. But I think they're still very related, Ontong Java and Zealandia, possibly like coupled as positive negative in some way, like we've found across like across divides. Like here's a divide of a current that was going basically this way. So across that, on one side is Ontong Java, on the other is Zealandia. I mean, I don't know if it's like that, but maybe. I just thought possibly there's some relationship between them that's maybe curious. The oldest known rocks in Zealandia are Middle Cambrian limestones of the Takaka terrain, 490 to 505. So like all expansion. 505 is expansion. Precambrian cratonic rocks have not yet been discovered within Zealandia. So it seems like Zealandia probably formed when Antarctica or Australia was physically up at the general region that between Laurentia and Precambrian Asia, Eurasia, was up in that region, and as the Earth expanded around the Cambrian end of the Cambrian, late Cambrian, Earth expansion phase 1 happened where Australia moved away, but while that happened, it probably formed Zealandia's like core, some sort of portion of landmass, like an accreted terrain that was kind of equivalent to what happens over here for this on Laurentia to make North America from Laurentia, where there was an accreted terrain, but then it got separated from it after it moved down here, though. So Australia moves down here. There's this current cutting across this way, and it just divided it from it, I guess. Enough that it actually divided it. And it used it as a backstop here. It was really some reason, like a focal point of the energy, some particular reason, but no Precambrian, which suggests that it was formed after the Earth expansion. This would be the time frame when Australia, okay, so what I just said. In addition, Zealandia is described as having mantle xenoliths as old as 2.7 billion. So, in spite of it having Cambrian crust, it seems like it also has Precambrian Archean, I guess, mantle underneath it, like as a support structure. So that probably, my thought is, it just basically cut kind of like this. It cut between something, the mantle, then had Australia and just like a chunk out there that maybe was submerged relatively even, and that then had accreted material built on it, and it didn't necessarily cut it at that point before the accreted material, but then it divided it away and like physically moved it enough, like an island, like or like a art, like Japan, like getting moved, a back arc basin opening here, like where it was once part of Asia's landmass and just got like brought out, at least in part. I don't know if that's actually, I say at least in part because I'm like, I don't know if that's what plate tectonics interpretation says particularly, if that would like clash in a way. They'd be like, ah, this son of a bitch, he's saying that bullshit and that. What the fuck did he just say? Strongly suggests that while Zealandia is Cambrian, its deep roots that it stands upon are not. It is composed of underlayers. Wow, that's how it strongly suggests. The 2.7 billion gave it away, huh? This fucking guy. Make it materially different than oceanic crust, which is truly where the Earth expanded. That's what it really strongly suggests. Maybe a little early, but this strongly suggests that like the expansion to a new radius was by actually dividing something even as deep as the mantle, which kind of gives credence. Like, if the Earth expanded, maybe it actually had to cut all of the things, not just the crust, to like expand too. So it did it to the mantle too. Maybe not to the same degree because it didn't have to expand as much, although it's pretty much the same size as the crust, so maybe it'd have to expand pretty substantially. Let's keep going. We might have to just like do a couple episodes. I had no idea how much is in these posts. Then they state, atop its geological basement rocks, Zealandia has a drape of at least 24 spatially separate late Cretaceous to Holocene sedimentary basins. This strongly suggests they formed as a function of where current was most focusedly flowing into Zealandia. Like, as this current pushes this current over this way to flow over there, it runs into... So I don't know if there is some sequence to this that I didn't look, but I did like suppose in this moment that such a sequence might be present. I don't know. It's not like it's not findable though. Okay. Lastly, and perhaps equally significantly, Zealandia had a widespread continental breakup unconformity of 84 million, which is, of course, when the Emperor Hawaiian seamount chain commences. It is also approximately when the Lewis-Clark fault line starts, which is in like Montana, I believe. In terms, is reactivated actually. This one. Is also the approximate end of the Cretaceous normal superchron, 120 to 83 million, and is also when Baja BC insular accretion ends, which commences with the western Idaho shear zone, which is not in this, but no, it's right there. This bend, particularly. Likely this time in Earth's history had a lot going on similar to the KT boundary, 84 million. And that being like the end of a time of build up. So it was like build up, build up, build up, build up, build up, expand. Or release. Build up, build up, build up, build up, release. Build up, release. Where pressure's building, but it's not enough to cause the Earth to expand. But then the pressure gets substantial enough that the like energy, the activation energy is actually there, and then it expands. And that leads to like some capacity for other things to happen, like the Hawaiian sphere moving through. Okay, before I just kind of ramble, global plate. So then I started looking more into these plate reorganization events. A global scale plate reorganization event at approximately 105 to 100 million, which is, in my interpretation, when Hawaii, the sphere of Hawaii, hit this corner, or wherever it was. Where was it? Oh yeah, this one. Sphere of Hawaii, boom, runs into North America with enough pressure that it actually runs into North America. Well, Laurentia, and then goes up to the North Pole, but not without, at that instance, inducing this plate reorganization event. Okay, that's my thoughts. At approximately 100 million, associated with the most prominent suite of fracture zone bends on the planet and many other geological events. We investigate tectonic events from the period of 110 to 90. Show that the reorganization occurred between 105 and 100. Seafloor evidence for plate motion changes is abundant during this period, with either fracture zone bends, so fracture zone bends being these, where they bend and go like this way. Although, I'm pretty sure it's like here. I'm not sure actually exactly which bend they're referring to. I believe it's like 60 degrees though. So it's probably, or even more, I don't know. Let's see. I might be mistaken on that, so don't put any weight in that. Either way, like hating on me even, because I don't even matter. Okay. Long live the Eastern Gondwanaland subduction ended. Eastern Gondwanaland subduction is referring to like this area, I believe, in Antarctica. Gondwanaland. Subduction into here, I guess. Which is probably when the Pacific started to like change, the currents changed to go further north. Let's keep going. While elsewhere around the Proto-Pacific Rim, subduction continued, and there is evidence that the compressional stresses increased in the overriding plates. Thrusting in western North America, transpression and basin inversion in eastern Asia. So thrusting, like just push, basically these currents. That's fine. Maybe we got better currents for North America. So currents going like up this way and this way, but up this way and pushing into it, leading to thrusting. I don't know exactly, but some reason that's not what's happening in Asia, so I'm not even sure what transpression geology. Strike slip zone with an additional and simultaneous shortening across the zone. Oh, like squeezing little like nuclei. Little nuclei getting squeezed between the currents. Little squeeze pressure points of compression. Okay. So transpression, I see. Basin inversion. When basin is uplifted due to crustal shortening. So I guess the currents are using North America basically as a backstop and South America as a backstop, pushing off of it, which is leading to the thrusting in North America, at least. I'm not sure if there's thrusting for the Andes, but and then going into Asia though, where the current is then flowing into Asia, and that is leading to compression in Asia, while it's really maybe even leading to expansion, like continental expansion, smaller scale than it happened in the oceans, but still expansion, extension of the North America Possibly, I'm not sure. I know there's an extension in North America at certain times. I don't know if at this time. Um, and development of the present-day Andean-style margin along western South America occurred contemporaneous with the development of an extensional regime in eastern Gondwana land. Basin instability in Africa and Western Europe further demonstrates Europe that lithospheric stress regime changes were widespread at this time. So something else going on was in Africa and Western Europe. There was lithospheric stress regime changes. I don't know exactly what that evidence is. It might be worth looking into what exactly they are referring to. But let's keep going. We suggest that Eastern Gondwana land subduction cessation is the most likely driving mechanism. So the stoppage of the subduction is the most likely driving mechanism for reorganization. So imagine like a current that is like pushing something, and it runs that thing into a wall, and it keeps flowing, but that current is like some kind of like putty or something that's more, or like ice cream, whatever. And that current's got to do something, and at that point it reorganizes by basically creating enough pressure that it deflects off of it and like goes another way, but not until actually doing the thing. So like creating the pressure, like if it's just moving along with the current, then it's not really creating the pressure, so it has to hit something and get stopped. And at that point, when the subduction ceases, it's because there's no like capacity to flow more into what is flowing into. It's literally built up resistance to the point that the current that's flowing into it cannot do that, so it bends off of it and goes another way. Okay. We propose the major changes in ridge-trench interaction triggered. So there's major changes in ridge-trench interaction, and there's suggesting that triggered the cessation, which I guess there's some relationship to what I was just saying in these ridge-trench interactions. Again, I don't really know exactly what they're referring to. The progressive subduction of two closely spaced perpendicular mid-ocean ridges at the eastern Gondwana land subduction zone to the east of Australia and New Zealand, respectively, resulted in very young crust entering the trench, and we suggest that by 105 to 100 million, there was insufficient negative buoyancy to drive subduction. Progressive subduction of two closely spaced perpendicular mid-ocean ridges at the eastern Gondwana. So basically, they're suggesting two plates are flowing underneath eastern Gondwana and running into each other, and this is leading to a buildup of pressure. That's incredible. So two currents. I mean, there's certainly the eddy. I didn't mean to close Google Earth. The eddy here. that had a current flowing this way and a current flowing this way, and currents over here, but maybe it's more related to this current and this current, where the eastern Gondwana land subduction ceased, and definitely related to the overwhelming pressures of the currents flowing off of Australia. So like off of Australia here, I think. Here we go. This current pushes the boundary over, and moves because it's just flowing that way, which is part of the other current down bottom, flowing that way, and it pushes the boundary to a point where the subduction ceases. Maybe it starts over here, I don't know. But maybe is seizing over here and actually is pushing into South America. Okay. Finally, we propose that the plume push force of the Bouvet plume that erupted near the African, Antarctic, South American triple junction contributed to plate motion changes in the southern Atlantic region. I believe I thought it was more significant because I thought it was saying here the Bouvet plume. I think I spelled that right. So there's India, Madagascar. So Eastern Africa. And I guess also Australia. Here's South America. Probably more closer into, because the Earth expanded, they might not be really doing it justice, but that might be later where it was in there. I think they recognized it was fully attached. Although I do believe there are some issues with like doing that. Okay, in terms of like it actually fitting together on a non-expanding Earth. The third image, extensional regime, increase in compression. You know, like exactly what I was suggesting the currents demonstrated. So, present day distribution of tectonic and volcanic observations. Green circles show regional unconformities. FZ indicators of plate motion change are highlighted in magenta, which is probably fracture zone. Okay, fracture zone indicators of plate reorganization. Or I guess here. Maybe. North American batholiths are red. This is where the western Idaho shear zone is labeled on this. I found that pretty crazy. Like that's how significant this thing is. Is that on a map like this, it really still is part of the picture. I don't remember exactly what is. I think this is extensional and compressional. Which I think that's what it was. And then it kind of occurred to me that it was like expanding from this nucleus. There was a nucleus here that was in the magnetic anomaly map. The nucleus of Africa, which I kind of just called the nucleus of Africa, seemed to be a nucleus of the flood as well, where it put out like a bar galaxy. It put out arms that pushed in two directions away from it. One way, leading like a current going, basically by a current going like this. It led to a flow going out this way, like an arm, this way that was running in over here, applying a pressure here. But then it led to another current going this way that basically went over here, like ended up going this way, across here, across here, across here, and then it basically running into itself like that. But like initially to here, so that it was really going into itself like that. But around this nucleus that thus had like a bar galaxy arm type thing going on, that then led to extensional features in Africa, I believe. West and Central Africa rift system. Yeah. So like a rifting system that was maybe because that, like, if the process fully went on, it might have divided Africa next by using the pressure points, but it expanded enough that it didn't. Spreading initiates. So it's really applying a pressure this way into over here where the subduction cessation is happening as this current going across this way goes into over here in reality. Something like that. Increase in compression as that current overwhelms across Australia, or this way, overwhelms, so it starts to extend. It's overwhelming the other one, where then it's like it's almost like two arms, like one's winning the battle with the other. That then, as it extends, it actually extends the space between them, which then leads to compression in like the arm that is being more overwhelmed, which is then South American region of the Andes, where like the actual compressive interaction is most happening in the most direct way between these currents from the nucleus of Africa. I was so excited that I didn't explain anything else I was seeing and why I was posting it. Let's see if I have anything else of interest. The first image shows this one. The Eastern Palmer land shear zone over here. Oh my god, I'm still on the first tab. Why didn't I make a video on this yet? Oh, there's so many, like, there's so many posts to go to. I'm a little surprised at how long this was. I didn't even look at it. Okay, okay. Um, in the general location where current was flowing, so that's just what so that's cool, this area. The image also notably has very few things depicted in the Western Idaho shear zone, and relevance to this time specifically of the plate reorganization, I think. I'm not sure if that's still this paper. And then there is a West and Central African rift system, very curiously positioned generally where the Trans-Saharan Seaway would later flow. AKA cutting was going on at this time, but later it was more of a seaway effect. Interesting, like the currents were going this way, and then later it was maybe going more this way. Of additional note, Okhotsk, look at that place, along the eastern margin of Asia, whereas the opposing margin of North America experienced, so a volcanic belt along the eastern margin of Asia formed, whereas the opposing margin of North America experienced high batholithic formation and placement, it seems. Like batholiths here, volcanoes here. Again related to the backstop here and where the current is flowing, which is very much like Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea. Well, Mauna Kea is like the dense backstop. It's still volcanic, but dense backstop. And Mauna Loa is like the current flowing volcanic, more actually volcanic. Portion of the Big Island. Okay, I can't go back like that. These two would be where the current propagating northward between wrapped along North America and back southward along Asia, between North America and Asia and Australia. The second image seems to have interesting features. Unsure what to take from it that isn't already visible in the others. I'm sure there's something pertinent. One notable thing is that the subduction cessation definitely relates to when the current off of Australia traveling eastward overwhelmed the current traveling northwestward into it from Antarctica. And I guess the one from south or from off Africa onto South America, like the bar one was more just holding the boundary and maybe wasn't overwhelmed as much as the other one was overwhelmed. That might actually be more true, and that like opened the space for them where they kind of okay. And given the whole equal and opposite force thing, it strongly suggests it did this by pushing off of something else. Basically, the pressures at the Andes, so flowing into itself, so that's that part. This would then be like stretching one's arms out and pushing and closing walls outward to open spaces between, but where the arms reach around and into one another. And instead, the space is formed by elongating the arms and increasing the radius of the Earth. Kind of what I just said. I know it sounds kind of Stretch Armstrong weird, but specifically doing so from the nucleus eddy that was centered on Central Africa. So that's another reconstruction from Matthews et al. Paper. So those were from Matthews et al., not Mortimer. This one has the Ontong Java Nui complex, much closer together, but notably treats Australia as if it was far away. So here's Ontong Java. Here's where it is now. Like it distinctly formed here, like here, and moved outward as this like current went in here and eddied here and pushed this out, extending the crust here, where this was over pretty much here. It was not ever like way far away from Australia like this. Never. It just looks absurd to me. But that's what plate tectonics has to do, is like make things absurd. It just runs into it. And it happens to have like the same general shape of like a hexagon type thing as over here. Just happens to. Unrelated. Unrelated. Sorry, not to mock. It's just plate tectonics is like a contortionist job. It just doesn't really work. Formed additionally, reconstruction accepts that the central western Pacific, where the small green dot is surrounded by the, so accepts that it is, even though it's based purely on the assumption that magnetic lineations can just be followed without any like need for acknowledging the drill samples that show that age is not that age. This is younger than the surroundings in drill samples. So like it's such a huge issue. And then I just kind of took some images of some other things that were going on at the same time. So we saw that one, changes in the plate motion. So this is oceanic basins, I guess. Yeah. Morton Basin fracture zone bend forms. I believe that's not in the Pacific. Oh yeah, over here. This bend. So that's of interest, is that was already happening at that time. Spreading rate increase in the Central Atlantic. Spreading rate increase in the South Atlantic. So we're seeing this increasing rate of expansion, I guess, in the Atlantic at least. Equatorial Atlantic separation. Weddell Sea fracture zone bends form. Southwest Indian Ridge fracture zone bends form. Okay, a bunch of things that I probably should go more closely into, but I'm just going to skip by this now. Lots of stuff that was going on at this time, though, to really show. Maybe I should look a little more closer. It's already an hour in. I might only get through this post. Oh, Lord. Western South America, crustal shortening initiates. Closure, back arc basin in Patagonia. It's interesting. Like there was something more like this going on. Like maybe down in this area. I don't know. I don't know what Patagonia actually encompasses? I'm not shopping. Why would that just supersede images? Oh my god. Okay, the Patagonian Desert. This is pretty much the southern region, I guess. Whatever, doesn't matter. Good enough. Caribbean subduction polarity reversal across the Greater Antilles arc results in a change from subduction of the Proto-Pacific plate to subduction of the Proto-Caribbean plate. That seems like the current between North and South America was kind of in some changing circumstance as well. Sort of like in Australia. Let's see, Eastern Asia, transpression initiates at the 3,000 kilometer long Tanlu fault zone. To the South China block, isn't that curious? Whoa. Let's see if we can kind of just see it, I guess. Maybe around here. Did it go across here? Yes. It looks like the Tanlu fault zone. Maybe stops over there though, and these are different ones name-wise. So that was 100 to 90. After the sphere hit the western Idaho shear zone, main phase of deformation, 105 to 90. So as the sphere is hitting, and then deforming, increases the compressional stress. Increase in compressional stress, including reverse fault reactivation at the peninsular ranges of batholith. So near San Diego, I guess, and maybe towards Los Angeles. Where was that? Something going on down there at that time. Something else in Eastern California, Sierra Nevada batholith. Idaho batholith magmatism commences, as if the sphere of Hawaii maybe was being transported in a kind of magmatic circumstance. Main phase of deformation. Okay. Let's just get past this. Okay. It's. Here we go. Here's what I found in the list. It's like I knew about this paper before seeing it or knowing its details. These are just things that recently came up that I didn't. Uplift and denudation in eastern Australia. Totally fits. Denudation being erosion. So eastern Australia is uplifted and eroded. That fits. India, Madagascar separation aspects. Fracture zone bands, accelerated subsidence at southern Australia margin. Not exactly sure why I felt that was so. I'm not sure why. Magmatic events in New Zealand. I think because the current I had divided, basically. Oh, there it is. This going like this way, but also going actually in this space too. Going that way too. Which then would perhaps provide accelerated subsidence at southern Australian margin. Magmatic events in New Zealand, Antarctic peninsular compression episodes. Andean compressional regime initiates. Deformation event in the northern Andes. Changes in faulting patterns at the Sierra Nevada batholith. And main phase of deformation of the western Idaho shear zone. This made me think that the shift, which actually rotated Australia slightly clockwise, as I put here. So when this boundary was over here, and then Australia shifted over and then rotated. This says the fracture zone in the Wharton Basin preserve evidence of two changes in the direction of spreading between Australia and India. An initial minor clockwise change followed by a major counterclockwise change. So notice this and this are not quite parallel. Like it actually is a clockwise change from this boundary to this boundary, if that was where Australia had this boundary as it moved out. So then it would have a minor clockwise rotation during the shift, and then a counterclockwise rotation, major, during the rotate. Minor, major. I thought that was pretty interesting that related. Went back to Matthews et al. Introduction, so I was like, maybe I should read this a little more. Long periods of relatively uniform plate motion are punctuated by short intervals of rapid change, evident in kinks in plate motion paths recorded by fracture zones and hotspot trails. Although hotspot trails relates to like the Hawaiian Sphere and other things. So, abrupt changes in the speed and or direction of plate motion are associated with changes in the orientation or location of plate boundaries and the forces acting on them. Plate reorganization events are recurrent, remains uh, there remains much debate over the driving mechanisms responsible for four major episodes of plate motion change, including the importance of top-down versus plate-derived versus bottom-up mantle flow-derived processes. It's interesting that it has both, like, top-down and bottom-up, so it's kind of like the sinking plate kind of stuff going on, leading to a top-down, I guess. But it is still kind of interesting that, like, isn't that like at the top? Shouldn't the like bottom up kind of just like flow things up more than like something at the top? It's so little at the top, but at some point it's like at the middle portion that's going down maybe. But the top is kind of, I don't know. It seems a little odd to me, but the flood makes it more of a top down and bottom up, so it's really like both things going on in the Earth's expansion process. So it's interesting that they would have evidence to the point that this kind of what I was getting at, that it really leads to like a debate between both sides of which is really driving it, and maybe both. I guess maybe they suggest those things. A lot of times it's like one or the other. Oddly, is like a debate happens. Richards concluded that the rapid plate reorganizations that take place over a period of less than a few million years occur too rapidly to be attributed to changes in mantle buoyancy forces that develop over longer timescales. Instead, they highlighted the importance of plate boundary forces in driving rapid plate motion changes. And they further discussed the intensively studied, as quote, plate reorganization event of 50 million and some proposed aspects. Approximately, so the 105 million of major plate reorganization at 50 million is widely accepted and has received much attention due to its association with the Hawaiian Emperor Seamount chain and its bend, and implies a major swerve in the Pacific plate at this time, even though we found in other studies that the bend is not simultaneous to this reorganization. That might be in this here that's brought up. I'm not sure. In the mid-Cretaceous, approximately 50 million years earlier, a suite of prominent 50 million or 50-degree fracture zone bends formed in the Wharton Basin, reflecting a major change in the direction of spreading and subsequent rapid northward acceleration of India. So this really relates to the northward acceleration of India. This reorganization has received limited attention despite being associated with the most prominent fracture zone bends currently observed on the seafloor. In this paper, we present the first global compilation. The driving mechanisms of the major plate reorganizations are not well understood and remain disputed even for the intensively studied 50 million event. So they're looking at her. Oh yeah, this is the 105 one. India Eurasia collision, subduction cessation, and initiation events in the Western Pacific. Plume push force of the reunion plume have all been proposed as viable mechanisms for the 50 million. Okay, and then. Fracture zone bends in the Indian Ocean apparently coincide with bends in the Pacific initiated by hotspot trail bends. over here. It is curious that the method of magnetic anomaly alignment interpolation of ages is described as constrained by seafloor ages obtained from ocean drilling expeditions. Alright, I believe. Oh, there it is. It is difficult to directly date seafloor events that occurred in the mid-Cretaceous between 120 to 83.5, as this corresponds to the Cretaceous normal superchron, so like a wide portion of band of the ocean floor is in this magnetic alignment, so it's not really as easily dated. It's more approximate, I guess. And interpolating between magnetic anomalies constrained by seafloor ages obtained from ocean drilling expeditions. This paper does not have anything to do with papers about the seafloor drillings of the East Mariana Basin that I've discussed several times. Unfortunately, because it does not match theory, the East Mariana Basin data is likely not well enough recognized to be accounted for in spite of falling within the range of this global reorganization event, of the global plate reorganization event. It's within the range of 105 to 100 is when this region of the Western Pacific that is here. This is the oldest region of the Pacific. As I scratch my thigh, okay, it's kind of buttocks. But this is old, supposedly, according to magnetic anomalies interpretation based on lineaments, but it's actually the age of the Ontong Java Plateau, which is 120, composed of the same material, 120 to 80 or something, or 120 to 100, depending on formation and breakup. But it's not this time. It is not the author's fault, I point out. Like, they're literally saying, constrained by these drill samples, which they have. We have drill samples that do not match what every geologist is basing their theories on. This is literally not what the drill samples show. The drill samples show this region being in these color ranges, like here, like this color range. This is what the drill samples show, but not this region, just the center. Pretty much. It's a little odd for plate tectonics. It just ignores it. It's like we didn't drill deep enough. That's the problem. We didn't drill deep enough, and we can't, so we'll just ignore the data entirely because we can't explain it. Constrained by seafloor ages obtained from. This is what happens when the theory is not challenged by the data. It can just be like a constraining factor. But when the theory is challenged by the data just doesn't matter. There's Jurassic crust under that Cretaceous crust. We know it. We just know it. We just know it. We figured it out by the lineaments that we're using to indirectly compute approximate age ranges. Who cares about that drill sample? No one cares. It's stupid anyway. It was done by someone who didn't know what they're doing. They didn't drill deep enough. They're like, good enough. It's probably Cretaceous. Even you didn't look at the lineaments. Didn't know they had to go deeper. Up, they did go deeper. Well, they still didn't go deep enough. Who cares how many times they tried? They didn't go deep enough. That's the only explanation. It can't be that we don't know what we're talking about and are just ignoring the data because it's inconvenient. What are we going to do about it? Well, we gotta ignore it. It's not the author's fault, but rather systemic failure to report things that do not corroborate preconceived notions with equal vigor. Where merited, to evidence deemed in favor of the conclusion. So that basically, like, plate tectonics. If you watch a series, anything that is introducing plate tectonics, it will tell you about Alfred Wegener, and then it will lead into his realization of continental drift, and then it will lead into plate tectonics. It's pretty much that boom, boom, boom train of thought. It won't be like, by the way, the Alice Springs orogeny does not match observation or interpretations. We can't quite fit it into the theory. It must fit in there. We'll figure it out sooner or later. Plate tectonics. Don't talk about that expanding Earth theory. We figured out plate tectonics. Well, don't even bring up that orogeny again, he said. How many times are you gonna bring up that orogeny, huh? What you think this drill sample matters? Show me your degree. That's right. That's right. You ain't got the credentials. I went to school for this. You did? What did you do? Well, that's something, but it's not. Maybe it's not like the most irrelevant, but you're probably just stupid anyway. I don't know what that entails enough to even care. Who cares? You just don't know. Drill samples don't matter. Data doesn't matter. We already fucking figured it out. With the data, dude. Just the data and the data and the data. They won't shut up about it. We already got the lineaments, bro. Look out. Look out. Look at them. Look at these things. How you think we can't use these as bases? Look at boom, boom, boom. They're fucking lines, bro. Boom, line, 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 line. One after another. Boom. We took drill samples here, there, or where, bruh. And generally speaking, the magnetic lineaments worked. So what are you talking about? The drill sample's the problem, bro. When I say generally speaking, I mean always, except for when the drill sample's the problem, bruh. Okay. What do you mean? There's a freaking circular thing around Bighorn mountain that we never acknowledged, and we don't know what we're talking about when we're even talking about magnetic alignments. What are you suggesting? What do you mean it's relevant? Who cares? It's, I can't even tell what that is. That could be like a small region of North America. Who knows with that stupid map? You're using these stupid maps. You can't even look at the earth like that. All you can look at is some stupid map. That's not really useful, bruh. There it is with the stupid map again. Wait, what's going on? Oh shit. Fucking asshole. Damn it. He won't stop just fucking bringing up more shit. But he said it again. No, he said it this before. He's saying it again and once again with the old shit. Maybe he's gonna get some new shit, huh? Oh lord, there's another Zealandia tab. Is this the same one? Is this? Oh, thank God. Whew. Oh, it's like, no. Enough Zealandia. This was interesting. Initiation of Iapetus Ocean at three-way triple junction. Laurentia Baltica. Laurentia Baltica. I think the reason I found this interesting was because it had Australia. Or no. What is going on? These. Oh. I don't know. It's been too long. Let's just go to the next tab. And probably should stop, honestly. Alright, guys. I made it through a single tab, pretty much. Peace out. Thanks for hanging out. See you next time.